Welcome to Paleo Talks. Today we take to the skies of the Jurassic to visit some of the first pterosaurs. This here is the Rhamphorhynchus. It is quite small as far as pterosaurs go, which once we get later into the Cretaceous period, which will happen eventually, pterosaurs get the size of small airplanes. So this is, in the grand scheme of things, this is tiny. This is one of the larger Jurassic pterosaurs, though. And so here's our buddy, obviously, for scale. And you can sort of see it here with its teeth are actually angled outwards. Now, in most predatory animals, the teeth angle back, sort of like a hook. Like that. On Rhamphorhynchus, they actually went outward. And I don't know if you've ever seen a fishing spear, like a Native American fishing spear, and if you haven't, here's a picture of one. It sort of works like that. It goes in. Imagine this part where it sort of funnels the fish in. Imagine little spikes coming off each one of those. And that's what Rhamphorhynchus' jaws acted like. That's how they acted. You've got a good picture of it here as it dives in to catch a few squid. Its jaw trailing into the water. So it's got the big teeth sticking outwards are actually something that helps it catch fish. This had a very specialized diet, obviously. If it couldn't eat like normal, I say normal, I mean like small animals. Now Dimorphodon, it's actually a bit smaller, not too. Its head sort of looks like a big puffin. And this thing eats everything from fish, as you can see in this picture right here. It's got a nice big fish there. But it'll also eat lizards and other small animals, maybe insects if it could get to them. They like to cling onto the walls of cliffs and onto the walls of, onto the branches of trees. Sort of like this. You can see the Dimorphodon hanging onto the limb of trees. Because it was very awkward walking, just because most pterosaurs were. So it would hang onto the trees and it would leap off and take to the skies. This is the smallest one on the list. It is Aneurogothinus, which is this one right here. It's the medium one right in the middle. And this thing eats like parasites and stuff from as you can see here on the back of Diplodocus, eating parasites, parasitic insects and things on it. It's a symbiotic relationship. That's a good time to address symbiotic relationships. What are they? Well, first of all, you should know. If you don't, it is pretty much the opposite of a parasitic relationship. In a parasitic relationship, one creature benefits to the detriment of the other creature. In a symbiotic relationship, both creatures benefit. So, this guy gets all his itchy bugs, parasites off of his back, and he gets to eat. It's a win-win. There's also slightly larger pterosaurs. This is the largest one we'll cover today. This is pterodactyls. It's not very tall, but its wings. Pterosaurs are usually measured by their wingspan, not their height. And this is where the term pterodactyl comes from. It comes from Pterodactylus, which was the first pterosaur ever discovered. And you can see here, especially here, it's got a long beak and a long neck, and it's actually got a very short tail, which the previous pterosaur had a short tail too. And that short tail becomes the norm. If I go back, you can see that Dimorphodon had a very long tail, as well as Rhamphorhynchus. But the tail of Pterodactylus was very short. It was quite large. And again, most animals during the Cretaceous, when there was big plains and forests, they clung to trees and sides of cliffs because it was easier for them to just jump off and get straight into the flying. And this, as well as a lot of other pterosaurs, most pterosaurs eat fish. They're sort of like pelicans, as far as their diet goes. Like to eat fish. Some of the larger ones, this could also have been a scavenger, kind of like a vulture. as well as some of the larger pterosaurs will hit during the Cretaceous. Some of them were large enough to actually be hunters, be able to hunt small animals. Now, the smallest, tied for the smallest, I think the little parasite is a bit smaller, but this is Archaeopteryx, rather. Now, it's a little tiny dinosaur-looking thing, which it wouldn't really be all that important if it didn't have this claim to fame. It is the first bird, the earliest known true bird. As you can see, its body is covered in feathers, and it's got like a little tiny velociraptor-looking head, which I think is adorably terrifying at the same time. And it's not very large; it's smaller than a chicken. However, it's got definitely the big feathers, and you can see it's actually the first bird capable of true flight. Now later, there's other animals which could glide. Pterosaurs did not have actual feathers, or they may have had downy feathers, like downy fur, like you see on longbirds. But this is the first thing that is readily recognizable as a bird, as opposed to something else. So this could have eaten, anything from mice to insects. That's typically the diet of Archaeopteryx. It wasn't a hunter, well, a big hunter, like you see. It didn't fish. It was an insectivore, or very small mammals, like lizards and stuff it could also eat. And that is where we'll call it today. Next week, we will be discussing the seas of the Jurassic with huge, essentially sea monsters. See you next